Okay, I have the motor on the HMV-104 apart here, and I discovered a few things. This is why you always take motors apart and check them, however tempting it may be to leave them alone if they sound like they're working good. Of course, this is the disgusting mess. That's normal. Ignore that spring for a second. And let's concentrate on this spring, because this spring is what was in this barrel. And what was not in this barrel or on this barrel is the ring clip that goes in that little channel right there and holds the lid down secure on the barrel so you don't lose all your lubricant when it is in the machine. That spring clip was missing, completely gone, not broken, not shortened, just not there. Now, when I see that kind of careless crap right away, I start to wonder, what other stupid shit have they done? You know, so now I have to go through the whole motor. And sure enough, I discovered why that clip was missing. They shortened the spring. They must have had a broken spring and it broke at the end. So they shortened it here. You can see where they cut it with a pair of snips or whatever to kind of round it out. They drilled a round hole instead of the pear-shaped hole you're supposed to have. Then to do it properly, you drill a smaller hole, then a larger hole a little ways away, and then you file down between them to make a pear-shaped hole. That is to, to attach it. I mean, it worked. It was working on this machine. It would work to do it this way. But what I worry about now is, did they anneal it? Did they anneal the metal, heat anneal it? And if they did the heat annealing, did they do it properly? So now, I can't trust this work. I'll be able to tell a little better if I was to degrease it, but it's already a shortened spring. I can tell it's at least a foot shorter than it should be, probably even more. I had this spring on the shelf from some other HMV at some point in the past, and you could see right off it's much bigger. It's a bit more, what do you call, kind of a spring to it. It unrolls a bit further. Look how tight this one is. Even though it was working for one play of a record anyway. This spring would be stronger. It is a proper replacement spring. It is an HMV original, actually, and I know that's been properly heat annealed. So I will use this spring when I put it back together. So we'll put that to get cleaned. But that is a good example of why you always have to check what had been going on in these motors. You got to take them apart, get a look. All the ball bearings were there. That wasn't an issue. They had the bearing caps on the governor too tight. They were way too tight. So those will be properly, you got to leave a little lash in those. You have to. Otherwise, they're going to tighten up on you. You're not going to get the proper speed. You want to just a little bit. I would say the thickness of a business card of lash in there. Just like you're adjusting the valves on the engine of a car. If you know about antique cars and you've ever adjusted valve lash, you know what I'm talking about. But that's what you have to do on governors too. You got to leave a little bit of room for it to slop back and forth a little bit, just tiny bit. What else did I find? Okay, all the washers were there. No missing washers. Whenever they did the spring, it looks like they just put it back with the original graphite flake grease that you so often find in these things. That'll be cleaned out of there. It's going to get modern grease, obviously. The non-return spring's okay. This all has to be cleaned. That was working okay anyway, but that's going to be all thoroughly scrubbed and, re-lubricated. But yeah, that was, I figured I would find something. I didn't think it would be that, but I don't trust that they annealed it properly, not after seeing this. Who puts back a spring without the spring retaining clip? I'm sorry. Who puts a barrel back into a motor without the lid retaining clip on it? When you do that, there's no way, the grease is just going to leak right out. You're going to lose the grease. Dirt is going to get in there. The lid is not sitting tightly down on there anymore. You can't do that. You can't do things that way. Maybe they didn't have access to parts. That's understandable. I guess they did what they had to do, maybe. Was that kind of a situation? But I'm going to tell you something. This looks like it was done a very long time ago. So this might have been done when it was still on the other side, before it came over here. So I don't know. But this is why I save spare springs. you know, just in case I need to do something. That was from one of my 102s, I think, that got a brand new spring because it's one of my nicer looking machines. So I put a brand new spring in there. I don't want to spend 40 bucks on this when I have this. This is fine. This will do the job. If this was working, this will work better. So I'm not particularly worried about that. This has plenty of fight left in it. This not so much, and it was still working anyway. So that I'm gonna use that, and you know, to be on the safe side. So I know the annealing was done properly on that one. This one I really don't know. You know, nothing I hate worse than having to take a spring back out of the barrel after I've already installed it with brand new lubrication. You want to talk about messy? That's the very definition of it. There is fresh grease all over the place on me, on everything I'm working on, all my tools. It just a huge mess. And it has happened. I've had springs break. You know, sometimes when I'm reusing an old spring, it's brittle. I haven't run the motor. No one's run it in 80 years. They can break. You know, it happens. So once or twice it has. And with these, you have to be very careful. I always take pictures. It never happened to me with one of these, but I can see how it would. You can put these springs in backwards. You know, it's just a little pin there inside the barrel, and you can put this either way. You know, you can wind it in this way, or if you're not paying attention, you can wind it in the wrong way. It goes in that way, and you end up with a spring that's backwards. And then you go to put in the arbor shaft, and it doesn't engage properly on the bent end in the middle there, which actually isn't looking that great either on this one. How is it on that one? Oh, it's better on that one. See, that one is more like it should be. This is kind of flattening out. I've seen that happen too. They get old and tired, and they just will not engage onto the arbor shaft anymore. They won't hook on there and stay engaged. You know, what are you going to do? You know, these things happen. I'm just happy I have a spare spring. I don't have to spend $40 here. This is my machine. I'm not selling it to anybody unless somebody comes in here and says, I got to have it. I can't live without that machine. Will you take $1,000 and it's not enough at that? Sure. Not a problem. Done. We have a deal. $1,000, it's yours. But no, I'm keeping the machine. You know, it's something I'm going to be playing with here for a while. I don't want to give it up because I'll never be able to get another one unless I import it from the UK. And they're probably not that common even over there. So I want to make sure that stays with me. So now the next step is I'm going to scrub all those disgusting, filthy parts. And that spring, the spring's clean a little bit, but it needs final cleaning on there. And I got to clean all that baked on crud out of there. This is going to take an hour by itself. You know, if you ever look up the prices, a lot of places charge to recondition a motor, to clean and re-lube a motor. It's stuff like this is the reason why they're charging you $100, $200, $300, $400. Usually they charge you on a scale depending on how many springs it has, specifically how many main springs, because this is the worst mess in the whole motor, and it's always baked on crap like that. I will have to scrub that with, here, where is it? See? Brass brush. All of this is just going to have to get in there. I may have to scrape it with a screwdriver in spots where it's really, really stubborn, you know, or even employ something like this to get it out of there. It's messy. It takes a long time. So that's why they're charging you quite a bit. They're not charging you for cleaning this. This is easy. This is relatively easy to degrease. I mean, it's time consuming too, but it's not baked on, rarely anyway. I mean, here, look at this. You see, that is still liquid. Some of that's because I put oil on there, but this is still liquid enough that it's going to come right out of there when I put it in the solvent. Whoops. Oh, and look what happened here. This is amazing. I love it when this happens. See if I can let you see it. Come on. Yeah, you see one of the little ball bearings there? They actually both came out. They came out of the caps right away. There was no problem. I just shook it like that a little bit, and there was the... And for anybody who wants to know, although I know I've described it a couple times, might even have showed it, how you get those little ball bearings out of those bearing caps. There's solvent in there, and you do this. This is how you clean them. This is how you get the ball bearings out. You may have to do this like I just did it now for 30 seconds, and the little ball bearings come right out. Or you may be doing this for, oh, I don't know, 2-3 hours over several days. It depends. One thing I will warn you, never put heat on a bearing cap like that to try to tease that little ball bearing out of there, because that makes an excellent gun barrel. And the vapors coming off of the boiling oil behind that little ball bearing there inside that bearing cap is like gunpowder. It will fire, and you will never, ever see that ball bearing again. So never put heat on these. You may have to pick at it a little bit with fine little picks to get in there to loosen up all the crud, or you may have to let it soak for a long time. You can use stuff like this, Croyle. Croyle works great in there. I'm not going to put this motor back together for some time. So if this had been stuck, this could sit there for days, and it's okay. Every now and then I'll come and just agitate a little bit, and eventually they do come out. Some will fight you to the death, but they will come out. Some, like this one, despite other sins I've seen on this motor, they came out just fine, which really surprised me considering how tight they were on the governor shaft. Somebody really got carried away with that. You can't really over-tighten those like that. They have to have a little lash. What else? Any other issues that I should go over here while I have everything apart here? Everything else is pretty straightforward. HMV, they come apart pretty easily. It's not really rocket science. Get these things apart. Just pay attention to where the ball bearings go. You see this little cup right here? That is a bearing cup. Right here. Inside there will be a tiny ball bearing. Another one. Not the same one that's in here. It's a different size, a little bit smaller on this motor. In there. And it usually sticks too. So I usually hit that with a little Croyle. I get in there with a pick to move it around a little bit. There's plenty of room for it to move. Put it over a nice, soft terry cloth towel like that one, which is the one I used. Put it upside down. Take a piece of water plastic and just tap it like that, and it'll come out. Eventually, it will come out. All things you have to do with these motors. And just pay attention to where washers go. There is a washer, the shaft that this rides on sticks up a little bit out of here. When you put the motor in there, you stick that down. There is a flat washer that goes on top of this. There isn't any on the bottom side. The bottom side is where you have this. There's no washer there. There is a washer here, so keep that in mind. You keep in mind that motors are different. Some might have two, some might have one washer there on different sides. Pay attention to where everything goes. Use a camera. This is not the age of 35 millimeter film where you have to go to the photo hut and pay 35 cents or whatever, 40 cents a picture to get them, probably $1.50 today, to get them developed, and you got to wait a week, or an hour, however long. Digital photography, it's instantaneous. Take lots of pictures, lots of them. The direction of travel of anything in there, where things go. So when it comes time for reassembly, the direction of rotation of the spring. So this way, when it comes time for reassembly, you know where everything goes. It's not a guessing game. You don't have to be taking the motor apart over and over again, moving things around to try to get them right. You'll know. I really wish I know how they managed to lose that spring clip, okay? Those clips don't break easily. They don't. And I've taken off a lot of them. So, and Victor has a similar one. So Victor's are even heavier. I don't know what they did. They just outright lost it, I guess. Maybe they forgot to put it back and realized it after and said, I'm not taking that motor apart, put this back in. It's working without it. It probably doesn't need it. Idiots. Idiots. You see, this is the danger you run, is here we are probably 50 to 80 years later. Somebody else is critiquing your work and calling you an idiot, and you deserve it if you do stupid shit like that. And now you're being remembered. This is how history is remember you. We don't know your name, but we know who you are, So don't be that guy. Don't be that guy where somebody is critiquing your work way in the future, calling you an idiot because you did something like this. You let that go without any kind of a clip in there. And you lost the clip to start with, or you were too lazy to put it back in. You didn't break it, okay? You didn't break it. Don't tell me you broke it, because you didn't. I know you didn't. You lost it. Whoever you were, nameless guy, You know, I know your type. You're sloppy. And really, this kind of work is sloppy too. All right, this is a cop-out. Just drilling one round hole. Really? Oh, did I ever show you? Oh, here. This is the pear-shaped hole. This is what it's supposed to be. The larger end slides over the stud, and then it locks down on the shorter end. And it locks in there really securely so it can't get out. With this, that little pin in there is only holding a little bit on the edge, and that's it. Putting tremendous pressure on that little bit of steel that it's holding on, so that that's where the cracks form, and then it's done. It'll crack eventually and fall out. With this, it's locked in there. It is distributing the load completely around that area on the bottom. This, where is it? This pin right there. See, it's round. It just slides right into that slot. Goes in the wide spot and then slides down to the tighter end and locks in there good. That's why we use a pear-shaped hole. And that is why we don't just drill a hole with a convenient drill bit and let that stud ride on a tiny bit of steel on the very end. That's not how you do things. All right, maybe you were stuck in the wilds of the Serengeti or something and had to do a field expedient repair with just a toolkit from your 1924 Dodge. I don't know. But you should have fixed it when you got back to the world anyway, if that's what happened, you know? So we don't want to do that. It didn't crack here, but eventually it would have, especially considering I'm pretty sure that's not annealed. It just doesn't look like it. That looks like original crud is still on there, and it would be baked off if they'd have properly annealed it. You see the difference in the spring sizes? That's quite a difference there. All right, I just figured I would cover that quickly while I had it apart. Come on.